Today I've got a confession to make to you. I don't talk about this much, as to be honest, it's pretty embarrassing. But I'm actually a pretty bad kite surfer. You see, one of the major problems for me as a kite surfing instructor is whenever it's windy, I'm working, and so often struggle to get out on the water myself. Now, ever since I started kite surfing back in 2002, all I've ever wanted to be is a kick-ass kite surfer myself. You know, one of those kiters who makes people walking along the beach stop and point. Well, after 12 years of teaching kite surfing, I still hadn't made this happen. My kiting was going backwards, to the point where I was often embarrassed to go kiting in front of my clients in case I got found out. At the same time, I was pulling 18-hour days running a successful, but admittedly terribly organised company, which didn't make money if the wind didn't blow. And as a result, was struggling to pay its bills and its staff, putting me under an ever-increasing amount of stress. Stress which exacerbated a whole host of underlying health issues, ranging from total burnout and bipolar disorder to a huge parasite infection, insomnia, and a total lack of energy. For the first time in my life, I also started piling on the pounds. I felt like a failure as an instructor, as a kite surfer, and as a businessman. Then 3 things happened. 1, I saw a student of mine I'd taught to ride just 6 months earlier and who was now a much better kiter than me. On the outside, I pretended to be stoked for them. On the inside, I was crushed. James, if you're out there, buddy, kudos to you. 2, my health failed to the point where I could barely get myself off the sofa. 3, unable to work due to health, I went bankrupt. This was the worst period of my life. Lying awake at night, worrying about what was going to happen to me, wondering when the debt collectors were coming to take my car away, feeling like an utter failure. Deep periods of depression, followed by manic spurts of desperately trying to earn some money, and probably worst, not being able to kite surf or indeed do any exercise because of my health. To make matters even worse, and if you've been following me for a while, you may well remember this. 1 month before all this happened, I'd announced to the world I was going on a year-long quest to become a kick-ass kite surfer, which now obviously couldn't happen. I couldn't teach and didn't see how I could carry on with the business. All my dreams had died. I had no kites, as Her Majesty's government had taken mine to cover my debts, and I couldn't even have managed to go kite surfing if I had any. Hell, I could barely walk down the street unaided. I was a kite surf instructor who couldn't kite, a beach bum who was so stressed I'd made myself ill. I was a health and performance coach who'd failed to implement everything I taught my clients and was now suffering the consequences. The irony was almost funny. One day, I sat in front of the camera ready to announce the closure of Tantrum Kitesurf and the end of everything I loved. At that moment, I was struck by a thought. All these problems had been caused because I'd been dependent on something which was fundamentally beyond my control. Barring gaining X-Man-like powers, I was never going to control the wind. And I was on a fast track to misery, basing my life and my happiness on something over which I had no control. So sitting there that day, I asked myself a really simple question. What can I control? Now at that moment, reflecting on the poor state of my health and how it had led me to this, the answer hit me out of the blue. There is one variable which has more impact on my kitesurfing performance, on how fast I learn, on how quickly I land my next trick, on how much stoke I get from the sport. One variable that could massively improve my kite surfing, and I could work on it when there was no wind. In fact, it would be easier to work on off the water than on the water. And what's more, it was a variable I had total control over. You see, I realised at that moment, If my muscles were able to kite surf for hours at a higher level and so take advantage of every breath of wind, if I could recover overnight after a hard day on the water, so I could get up and do the same again tomorrow and not suffer from the lethargy and aches and pains that I normally got, if I had energy to burn and so could get myself out whenever there was wind and not make excuses about it having been a long day or just being too tired, if I had crystal clear focus and so could keep my concentration easily for an entire session, if I learned faster, if I got ill and injured less, if I got rid of the extra weight I was carrying, if I had sharper reflexes and a more agile mind, if I could control the voice in my head that told me I wasn't good enough, the voice that created anxiety whenever I visited a new spot or just worried incessantly about safety, telling me I was going to screw up and be a burden to other kite surfers as they had to rescue me, or I got washed up on the beach again like a drowned rat. If I was 100% resistant to skill fade and has the mental resilience to push through procrastination, fear and doubt, no matter what, until I landed that next trick. If I could get into the zone every time I went kite surfing and so improve much faster and enjoy my time on the water even more. If I could master all this, I couldn't help but be a better kite surfer. You see, what I realized in that fateful moment was that the most important variable in my kite surfing, my business and my life, it wasn't the wind, it was me. Just ask yourself now, if you could master everything I've just talked about, do you think your kite surfing would improve? Do you think your life would improve? You see, I realized this could solve my problems instantly. I'd be able to work on my own and my clients' kite surfing performance whilst we were off the water, whilst removing any reliance on the wind and restoring my health to a higher level than it was before I got ill. Now, I've been a personal trainer and a functional health and peak performance practitioner since leaving the Royal Marines. So I dug in. I used all the knowledge I had. I talked to scientists, doctors, Olympic athletes, astronauts, special forces, professional kite surfers, medicine men, shamans, and every guru I could find, trying to figure out the secrets of human performance and apply it to kite surfing. So I'm here now, recovered to a point where I can actually function as a human being again. And I'm going to show you everything I've learned using me as a test monkey. So here is me officially rebooting my quest to become a kick-ass kite surfer. I really hope you join me for the ride. To stay up to date with the quest, just simply like this video first, very important, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel, making sure you ring the bell to make sure that you get notified whenever I upload a new video. I'll speak to you soon.